Hi, Nancy. Hi, Ethan. Hi, hello, lots of people I know. You're all on mute for now, and we will get started. Lindsay, you say the word.
All right, we can go ahead and get started. Thanks, guys.
This will also be on Facebook Live, folks, as well as we're recording this talk. I'm delighted to welcome you to a mini class organized by the Friends of the Arava Institute and the Arava Institute to share with you the wonderful work that our faculty, alumni, and friends are doing out in the world, particularly in the region. Today, we are delighted to have my friend and an alum of the Institute who currently serves as an environmental public health specialist and industrial hygienist, as well as an educator who works extensively in Bedouin communities throughout the region. He is a transboundary project promoter, community developer, and environmental activist working to democratize public health and promote shared society. He lives in the Nablus area. Is that correct? No.
No, dearest. I live now in the Negev, in Beersheba area.
Right. Yeah, that's right. He, along with graduating from the Arava Institute, first among many, no, just kidding. He has a degree in biomedical engineering from the Technion. He has an educator certificate in math from Ben Gurion University and a master's in public health from Haifa University. Can't teach this boy anything. No, just kidding. He is a great friend both of me and of the Institute, and I'm delighted to have him sharing with you today. Fareed will speak for about 20 minutes. You're all on mute for now. If you have questions, please put them in the chat during his talk. We'll open up Q&A more directly in later. As all of you know, just like the rest of our world, Zoom security has become an issue. We have been Zoom bombed in the past, so we very carefully kind of control things till we're sure we're on with our friends. And we look forward to your questions. However, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will be monitoring them, and there will be time for Q&A. Fareed, over to you.
Thank you so much, dearest Miriam. Such a pleasure meeting you after last year international seminar. First of all, Masal Ward, evening of roses. This is how we greet each other in Arabic. So evening of roses, everybody. It's such an honor being here. And again, every time it feels even like a prerogative, like a right that you need to take. And I feel really grateful to be amongst this amazing community that helped to promote sustainability. So let's start. Let's start, Lindsay. Can we start the lecture?
Yes,
okay.
So, thanks so much, Fareed.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I would love to ask the audience to engage, and this is like a small game. What do you see? Please write in the chat, what do you see? And Lindsay will tell us what are the answers. What do you think you see? What the picture embodies? What it does tell us?
Fareed, someone said a school sign. Mahameed did. Michael said a desert ecosystem. David said a sign, a road in the desert. Another participant said desert, school, bilingual, dry, arid area pointing to a school. And then we also received desert and highway. Miriam said road sign to school, habitat fragmentation, trilingual, a sign in desert. So those are a few of the answers we've received so far.
Oh, wow. So I should give you another 10 seconds, and then we will see what this picture actually tells us about our project and our work and our reality.
We also received automobiles.
Okay, so I won't linger anymore. It's picture that show us a road to nowhere, cul-de-sac. So this is the entrance to Al-Foraa village. I'm gonna get to Foraa later. This is the unrecognized Bedouin village that I teach at and work. And it's really fun that every time I ask somebody to visit Al-Foraa, he will get confused by this sign. Like there is a road, like let's say semi-road, and it's like it's not connected directly. So for some reason they've built intersection and they just put a sign, I mean like the government, which shows the sign to the school. So everybody thinks that this is the way to go to the school, but this way leads to nowhere. And this is the way that leads to the school. It's unrecognized roads leading to a recognized school. Why I'm showing this? Because this is the complexity and reality working with unrecognized Bedouin communities in the Nakab Negev. You have this constant conflict between the government and the local community, and you need how to maneuver and work it throughout and meandering, as I say, throughout all of the sensitivities and difficulties working with those a complex reality. And sometimes we believe nature knows no border. And sometimes you'll be amazed to see how simple solution could make huge changes that everybody will cut the benefit or will reap the benefit of. But for some reason, because of political reasons, things get stagnated. And this is where we come in, helping both the community and also the governmental agency to protect the environment and get more, let's say, environmental solution. So let's get a little bit closer look on the Bedouin community in the Nakab in the Negev. In the Negev, you have almost 300,000 Bedouins living in the Negev. They almost constitute about 40% of the Negev population, 30 to 40. You have, this is how the distribution is. You have 7 recognized towns and villages. When I say recognized, then that means that the government built those villages and towns in order to put as many Bedouin in those towns as possible on as less land as possible. So they created this 7 towns that have infrastructure. They have a sewer system, they have electricity grid, they have water supply pipes, but they're still on the very low socioeconomic scale. So at least they have infrastructure. So those are the only 7 recognized Bedouin villages with infrastructure. The second type of Bedouin communities live in one of the 2 regional councils that represent what I call semi-recognized. Why I say semi-recognized? Because if you go to the government website, they say those regional councils are recognized. They're actually on the geopolitical map. Once you get a map, you will go to El Qaysum and Wahat al-Sahra and Neve Midbar represent almost 11 Bedouin villages that are semi-recognized. What does that mean, semi-recognized? It means that you are on the geopolitical map. You have a statutory representation by this council, but you still lack sewer system infrastructure, electricity grid connection, and also water supply. So it's like in the gray zone. They're allowed to have their homes. They're not allowed to build. There's still like conflict between the government and the local communities about land and land ownership. So that's why the solution has been delayed for so long. Just give you one example. Batin is one of the villages that we did implement some of our work on. It was recognized since 2008. To this day, it's still without infrastructure. Why is that very important? Even if you get the recognition, that does not guarantee that you will get the infrastructure. And this is very important for me because those communities, they don't have wastewater treatment capabilities. This leads us to the third category, which is for me the most pressing and important, the unrecognized Bedouin villages. In total, like there are 36, and they're just growing because the definition of unrecognized Bedouin village, the recognition of a village is like, or a community in Israel is if you have 500 people or above, you know, communities. So this is like the latest report that I got from the Council of Unrecognized Bedouin Village, which I also will relate to later. And you have almost 81,000 Bedouins living in unrecognized Bedouin villages. What does that mean? It means that you don't exist on the map, literally. Like if you go to see where are those villages, they don't exist. They lack any kind of infrastructure. They lack any kind of service, medical, educational. It is like a new service because there was like a Supreme Court ruling that obliged the government to give educational services to these communities. So they usually, what they will do, they will build a regional school like the one that you've seen on the sign, and they will try to collect the students from the surrounding villages to one center. So for example, I will give you one of my pupils that needs to get to my school. They need to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning in order to get to the school at 7:30, 8 a.m. So this is the complex reality of unrecognized Bedouin villages. Another factor which is very important is the demolition factor. Unrecognized Bedouin villages faces constant threats of demolition, which means they have still a higher fertility rate, which has been like has been getting down in the past years, but still they can't build, and every building will be demolished immediately almost, unlike the recognized where everything there is according to the plan, or the semi-recognized where it's still in the gray zone. In the unrecognized Bedouin villages faces the threats of demolitions all the time. And this adds another factor to the complexity, because if you want to imagine build something, you can't do it. So I will give my school as an example later. So what you see here, that you have almost 40, 30, 36%, 40% of the Bedouin communities live without infrastructure. You have almost 100,010 people living in the Negev without basic infrastructure services. And this is, as everybody knows, is not just, is not right, and it's not environmental at all. So which leads us to off-grid communities. You know, off-grid communities is not, let's say, a special case for Israel. You know, most of the communities on the planet, they almost like you have 57% of the communities on the planet, let's say they don't treat their water, they don't get infrastructure. Imagine 57%, they still lack access to sewer system. So off-grid communities are communities that are without any infrastructure. In Israel, it's very special case to the Bedouin communities. Although I would love to say, working with the Center of Transboundary Water Management of the Institute, I discovered also there are also Jewish communities that lack infrastructure, but there the law is more relaxed, let's say. So we did work with some of the kibbutzim, which I was surprised that they lack infrastructure, but they, let's say you won't hear that they're gonna demolish a house in a kibbutz, but it's not only the Bedouin, but the focus is majorly on the Bedouin communities, because first of all, the Negev area now is becoming a hot political potato. And like, if you're in the news, you're gonna hear it's the wild west. Like if you get to the Negev, people will just like, if they think they live in the wild west, you will be kidnapped and whatever, which is not true. I could tell you, I live in the Negev for the past 10 years. It's an amazing place, and I really like it here. It's relatively safe, and that's why our work is very important, because if you see, most of the people who live in unrecognized Bedouin villages, off-grid communities, they have cesspits, which they like collect all of the water in the ground in these facilities that you see to the left. And it's problematic. Why? Because first of all, it's costly. Like you need people who are, usually people who live in unrecognized Bedouin villages are the lower in the socioeconomical scale in Israel. Second, it's environmentally unfriendly, which means you have leakages. Like there's no hermetic stem of any of the cesspits. On the long run, you're gonna have leakages. The third one, which is not less important, is the health hazards. You know, one of the outbreaks of polio was in the unrecognized Bedouin communities in 2015 in Israel. So that was because of lack of these basic services. And what you see usually that what you're gonna see spillage from either those cesspits or from pipes coming down into water reservoirs in the river. So this is the, let's say, the negative part of off-grid communities. The positive part, which I think is amazing, Bedouin off-grid communities in Israel are the only community that generate almost like most of their energy, 100% from electrical solar power. Because of the complex reality, most of them, don't have electricity connection, so they just put solar panel. So what in my imagination, I think if like the government was a little bit smarter, you have here a good case for how to transform yourself from a polluting, let's say, energy polluting community into a friendly, environmentally renewable energy community. And this show again the complexity hands in hands. On one hand, they produce clean energy. On the other hand, because of lack of infrastructure, they pollute the water. So, and one of the projects that we done before I continue was surveilling COVID-19 induced wastewater, but I won't elaborate more. This is for a different lecture. And here comes our solutions. And this is Laguna. Laguna is a startup that was co-founded by Clive Lipchin. Clive is the head of CTWM, Center of Transboundary Water Management. He is like my boss. And it's a startup that the Institute invested in. It gives an off-grid solution to treat wastewater in off-grid communities. What's cool about this device? First of all, it's portable, which means you can in one day like assemble it, and in one day you can just take it off. Why that's very important, we will see later, because when I will come to unrecognized Bedouin communities, there's a law that forbids me from building something. I can tell the government, oh, I'm not building anything. It's a portable device. I just can put it, and wherever you want, I can take it. So it's legal. And another factor, it's energy independence, which means it produces energy through solar panels and also store them in batteries. So there's no need for any kind of connection. And the third cool part is that you can monitor it 24/7 live on your app. So this is also give you access to empower the community to know in real time what's happening in their with their wastewater. So for example, the device on the right was the first one that we did install in Bedouin, unrecognized Bedouin village. Clive did install it in Batin in a private home. I will explain. Usually Bedouin and Arab society is traditional. So the brothers will live in a small neighborhood, in a small community together. And it was there for 1 year to give solution until they got some kind of permission to build some kind of network. So we did take it and we give it to Kibbutz Lapidot in the north, a kibbutz of 400 people that did not have infrastructure. And the system did work very well in both sides. So we want to, let's say, to raise the bar, to raise the ante. And to the left is Clive in our latest project in Asir al-Shamaliye. It's a Palestinian town school in the West Bank. And this system is 25K, which is amazing because it could treat water from, for all the school, and then it could be used for agriculture. And this is the biggest system that we built so far. And it's really cool that you can monitor it from anywhere. And it was complex also transporting the system to area A. So everything with off-grid communities is complex. So how does the technology work? I won't get into details, but this system, what's good about it, there's no need to separate gray water and black water. Everything goes to the same source. You have anaerobic tanks that lower BOD and break down the sludge. This is the first part. Then the flow will go to the anoxic and the aerobic tank. Anoxic is an environment with low oxygens, and you have this microorganism that again continue with the process to further lower the BOD and through mineralization. After the first part, it will go to two clarifier that will clean it from the sludge. One of the big bonuses and advantages of our system that also treats sludge. There's no sludge, and it has a feedback circle. So this is the first part. Then it will lead the sludge and the sludgy water back again to the same process, and it will continue recycling this process until you get a higher quality water with low BOD wastewater with no sludge that will go to the vertical green wall with the biofilm, with the algae that are there, and you're gonna sprinkle the water on this huge a two green wall, and the algae will do their part with anoxic and aerobic process of breaking down the nitrates and further lower the BOD. It's all, again, it's all solar. It's all monitored live. And I can tell you, for example, it's also automatic. So the one that we installed in Asira is still in the first part. Why? Because you need to fill the tank. So it's really also independent. So once the tank is not full, it won't continue to the second part. And once you have some kind of alert, you can go there and fix it. And this is for the technology. It's innovative because, again, there's no system that I know so far that can do everything, gray water, black water, with no sludge, portable, easy to maintain, a 24/7 surveillance, that Laguna system, which is part of the technology. And I can say we're the only system in the Middle East that actually installed this kind of installation in off-grid communities. We work so far in the Palestinian communities, West Bank, in Jordan, and also now with the Bedouin communities. So we're partnering now with initiative, governmental initiative.
I just want to say, Farid, on the technology, you know, some people kept up with you and got it. Some people might have been lost. We're going to do a whole nother event on that technology with maybe with Farid and Clive, or some combination to kind of deep dive about Laguna, about the possibilities, et cetera, and so forth. So if you felt like that went by a little quickly for you, personally, yes. Don't worry, we got you. We'll come back to it.
Okay, I will just say regarding technology, first part is in the tank, is you just like, you clean the water from the sludge through aerobic and anaerobic processes and mineralization. Second part is using 2 green walls, the vertical biofilms with algae that's with aerobic and anoxic environment, dissolve and break down the organic materials. This is like in a nutshell. I hope that was fine, Miriam.
It's good. We'll do a whole session on it, and hopefully you'll join that one as well.
And the cool part, again, you can use that effluent and discharge to irrigation, and we're actually partnering with farmers at that school to use it to irrigate his olive groves. So we said we need to connect, and this is Sayyid Al-Harumi initiative. What you see on the left is Yossi Abramovich and Mansour Abbas, MK of the Ra'am Arab Party. So Yossi Abramovich is like the godfather of solar energy in Israel. He's also living in Kibbutz Keturah. I think Miriam knows him, and a lot of you, I think, knows him. To the right, you see the Minister of Environment, Dr. Tamar Zandberg, and they came up with this project in trying to help Bedouin communities from the environmental aspect. And what Yossi tries to do is to give solar energy, free solar clean energy to Bedouin communities, off-grid communities. So let's partner together. Let's give a holistic solution, not only energy, but also water, because you can't separate the both of them. The problem in the Bedouin community is to a lesser part energy, and to a larger part is about treating the water. So we partnered together, and we went to the Al-Qaysum Regional Council, and we hopefully will sign MOU that will give us rights to further further explore this technology in off-grid communities. But why this is important? Because I think partnering, especially with governmental initiatives, is the watershed moments for any project to succeed. Because this is our aim at the Arava, is to raise awareness and also try to promote and pressure and push the governments to go into those environmental solutions. So we're still working together, and even like the person who's in charge is an alum of the institute, Micha Price, somebody if you know him. So we chose 2 prototypes. One is in kindergartens in Al-Gharra, Unrecognized village. The second is in Al-Foraa Unrecognized village, which is where I teach, and I am very connected to the community. So a little more explanation about Al-Foraa, population between 4,000 to 6,000. It's really funny that they are actually the oldest Bedouin village there, even before the recognized Bedouin villages that surrounds it, like Seife and Arad. Arad is like a Jewish town. But also, it's interesting that they got recognition from Sharon, like another village which is called Abu Tlul in 2008. But for political reason that we will see later, I explained, they did not get into that process like Abu Tlul, where Abu Tloul, for example, is now part of the regional council. So they have a statutory, right. Al-Foraa still not. It does not exist on the map. It's totally off-grid communities. The community is conservative and traditionalist. It's very hospitable and welcoming. And it's in the process of transitioning and modernization. It's really amazing seeing how fast the pace of life, especially with all now the social media, and the bigger impact is on women empowerment. Like most of the excelled students at my school, with the topic that are scientific and let's say the heavyweight scientific topics, most of the class are girls, and most of the pupils that will continue further are in the academy are Bedouin girls, so Bedouin-like women, so pupils, so female. So what we're seeing here is really an amazing process, like of historical impact right in front of your eyes. And why Foraa? I choose Foraa. It's the center of one of Israel's most important environmental struggle. Foraa wasn't recognized because there's a huge fight about this place. This place sits on phosphate mine. As you see on the map, it's what's so in Hebrew called Bikat Arab. It's the upper square. It's the upper diagonal, and you have this pressure from the chemical company of Israel on the government not to recognize Foraa, and they actually plan to evict all of the population, and especially the school that I teach on, so that they can build this phosphate mine. Why this is important? Because it's the only few moments in Israel that I went into demonstration where Arabs, Bedouins, secular Jews, Haredi Jews, religious Jews were together, like united against one target, against the opening of this mine. And part of my process is, as you see to the picture to the left, is to raise awareness and be an activist. So here you see a meeting between Jewish activists from Arad and Bedouin leaders, and we invited Alon Tal. Alon Tal is now MK, member of Knesset, one of his many titles. But if you don't know Alon Tal, I will tell you like this. Did you see Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Ghostbuster? Alon Tal is like this, but he hunts for polluters. So he actually, his NGO, Adam Teva Vadin, was one of the NGO that sued this chemical company in another case, and they got them hefty fines. So Alon Tal is very supportive of our cause, and he thinks that by doing this environmental struggle, there's a good chance that this phosphate mine won't be open. So let's go to Al-Foraa Campus. This is my school, as you see, and it's really beautiful school, surrounded by, by desert, uncharted desert, almost virgin territories. Like there's no infrastructure yet, and you see a desert, and there's no infrastructure for sewer. We have cesspits, as you see, and we don't have good internet connection. We don't have good, phone connection. So I will tell a personal story that was very, emotional for me. One of my 12th grade, like the last year before, graduating, she was fluent in English, and there's a huge competition called Brain Bee, which is organized by Tel Aviv University. And she said, are you interested? Because in the Arab society, we have poor skills in English especially. So she said yes, and she studied for the course independently. And the day of the exam, we told them, can we bring her to Tel Aviv University? Because we don't have internet connection, very good one. She said, no, because of Corona, we're not allowed to bring. And she studied really hard. And the day of that exam, she did not go through because the internet connection was disrupted. That's it. And they did not give us a second chance. And why I'm giving you this story, because this is the challenges that faces those communities. You don't have, any kind of what we call technological advances, and you need to push yourself in the very competitive environments in Israel. And I will tell you, even the electricity, although we are connected to the grid, we still have, a daily shortcut or power cut down, and it's the norm. So this is very challenging, and that's why I think this project is very important. For me, Al-Foraa is a prototype. It's a Foraa campus. It's 3,000 pupils. I just will finish, Miriam. And it's served from kindergartens to 12th grade. And we really hope that once we implement our project there, and hopefully by the 1st of September, we're gonna open the first, installation of the Laguna system. We're gonna show the government that you can replicate the system to all the Bedouin villages in unrecognized towns. Yes, Miriam.
I want to get to some of these great questions, and people have a lot of questions, Farid. So
Can they wait a little bit because I don't have a lot of slides? We have almost like 2 slides, or it's very pressing.
Let's see if we get to them, shall we say, from the questions. So the first question that I think is really important, because you and I had this conversation. I don't remember when, but I know we had it. Is someone asked, aren't Bedouin weren't they and aren't they nomadic communities? Don't they move from place to place? So, of course, borders may restrict that, and modern ways restrict that, but perhaps you could speak to that in a more general sense.
Okay, so I would say this is a myth, especially for the Bedouin of the Negev, that I'm sorry to blow. I thought that let's say as a person coming from the north, not a native to the Negev, I thought like you, but no, the answer is no. And actually, the Bedouins are semi-nomad, and they have very clear rules about the territory. They are very territorial clans. One of the tragedies of the Bedouin, and a lot of the people think like when the state of Israel was created, the Nakba for the Palestinian people, they forget there was also a Nakba for the Bedouin community. Most of the Bedouin community was uprooted from its area. And they now been concentrated into this triangle, what's called the Sayyid, the Sayyid triangle, we call it, which goes through Dimona, Arad, Beersheba. And what the problem with this communities is because they have their own territory, the government moved them to another clan's territory. And this creates these fights and conflicts between the different clans. If you go to the historical distribution of the lands, every tribe knows its border, where its lands ends and where it begins. And if one tribe trespasses on other tribes' lands, it will create conflict. And sometimes they even told me in a historical part, a war between those tribes. So my answer is no. But if you're more interested in the area, in this field, I would recommend the Dr. Atu Abu Freh. He's a PhD from researcher about the Bedouin displacements after the creation of Israel, the Nakba, and also Professor Orwen Yiftahal. He's also a BGU professor that dealt extensively with this field of Bedouin displacements, the Bedouin communities, and the relation between the states and the unrecognized Bedouin villages.
Great. There are lots of questions about the Laguna technology, but I want to maybe defer some of those for another conversation. Someone asked, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'd rather you answer it. Why would we oppose a phosphate plant in a time of a global fertilizer shortage? I think, there are 2 reasons I can think of. One of the displacement of people, and the other is the environment, of course, but I'll let you give a more in-depth.
Can I ask where this person comes from?
United States of America.
Or city? Where does he live? In Boston or where?
I don't know the answer to that. It doesn't matter.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's say Miriam, I don't know.
Let's say it was me.
Okay, let's say you live in Newton, Boston. ExxonMobil said, dearest Miriam, we discovered huge, cracking now, natural gas under your home. We're gonna evict you, and because we lack energy, we need energy, the price is inflation. Is this moral and ethical? Absolutely not. Like, imagine, guys, we're coming to the most vulnerable communities and you're just uprooting them without a practical solution. And don't forget, you're destroying their traditional way of life. Bedouin, unlike Native American indigenous communities in America, did not get the federal right to control their areas. So this is first. Second, all of the surrounding villages, why they oppose it? Because they have one of like the best quality air, especially Arad. Like people with asthma and respiratory problems will go to Arad for treatment. So imagine the nightmare that you're gonna have, raising your kids with phosphate in the air, like higher concentration, and also the pollution to the environment and to the scars that will be left. And the third part, which is the saddest part, They have alternative, dearest Miriam. They have, as I showed you in the map, they have a more southern mine, but because of transportation costs, they prefer to do it in Al-Foraa. And as I told you, this is one of the few struggles in Israel that I was in that's almost unanimous, from the Arab members of Knesset to the Haredi members, to the center, to the secular. It's everybody almost unanimous against this project. It's what we say in Hebrew, hon v'shilton. Hon is like money, shilton is power. So this have a beautiful rhyme in Hebrew. Like this is a classical case where people with money, with companies that have been polluting, unfortunately, in the area, wants to get more money, which is, again, it's a public land. It's nobody's private lands to have this kind of resources and power, and especially if you have communities. So I would rather imagine somebody would accept that his kid will study in a school next to a phosphate mine and the air pollution and just the nightmares. I really even can't fathom it.
Here's a nice, interesting question from our friend Mike Roth. And I'm going to do it slightly differently, Mike, with apologies. Do all Bedouin communities, are they receptive to the technologies and infrastructures that we are bringing them? Or is there a process of sort of understanding and integration, et cetera, and so forth? Especially around water, Israelis are used to having secondarily cleaned water in their agriculture, but in the West Bank and in unrecognized villages, this is new. Are they generally receptive to this kind of?
Very good question. Thank you for it. Yes, there are, let's say, psychological traditional barriers. I'll explain. First of all, there is still this fear that how can you use, secondary, or let's say treated water and irrigate the plants and the trees and then eat the fruits. It still has some, barriers that we need to overcome with explanation and building what I call trust with communities. What will make or break a project is the process that you build that trust with the community. If you explain the message, if you convey the message rightfully, and so you build it slowly. So for example, one of the fear in Asir al-Shamaliye that the people ask me is about the smell. This was the most like pressing issue. Are there going to be bad smell? And I said, no. For them, this is okay, if there's no bad smell, that's fine. That was the worry of this Palestinian community. Other communities, okay, but are you sure that this water is actually safe to irrigate, plant with it, and then sell the fruits to people to eat them? Or even, let's say, irrigate, trees for recreational use, and it won't pollute the ground? We say yes, but again, it's not like a magical button. The success of this project is about trust, and we did have failures, and I will say it, and it's a learning curve. But the most important thing is not to hasten, and this leads me to this slide, if I may, Miriam.
Sure.
That's why, yes, so this is a very important question. That's why when I came, I said, okay, Clive, we have here some kind of disconnect. Unrecognized Bedouin communities, they don't exist on the map. So on the other hand, they have some basic services that two of the regional councils, some, not all of them, can give them. Like Al-Foraa is represented by Al-Qaysum. They don't vote for that council. They don't have any power to affect the politician there because they don't vote. But let's say the regional council for Qaysum is some kind of a contract between the governments and those unrecognized communities. Why this is important? Because as the first sign that I've shown you with the regional school sign that leads to nowhere, if I only speak with the government, if I just come from above, there's no solution on the ground. What the government wants and what I want, or Clive or Miriam, does not necessarily means that's the Bedouin community wants. So I said, let's connect with the Council of Unrecognized Bedouin Villages. It's a council that represents almost, you can say, between 80,000 to 100,000 Bedouins. It has no statutory status at all. Doesn't give, they're not paying, there's no employees, they don't give any funding from the government, but they represent the people on the ground. This is a grassroots movement that have been building for so long, and they're actually the one that have been pushing the boundaries and achieving those amazing achievements like building school, roads, connecting water through Bagat, through the Israeli Supreme Court rules. They're the one that have been pushing the boundaries slowly. And we said, okay, we need to work with the government, as I showed you, Sayyid Al-Harumi, but we need to connect also to the unrecognized communities. And that's why we invited them. What you see here is the head of that council and his deputy and representatives of the community. We invited them to the Arava, like after we visited them at Bir Sabeh. And there, Dr. Tariq Abu Hamid, Clive, and Aliza, we sat together and brainstormed where we can meet. So I'll give you an example. At the Arava, we lack Bedouin students, and especially from those Bedouin communities, because most of our technology is from Bedouin communities. Like, it's suitable for those off-grid communities. At the end of the day, me, Farid, I'm not Bedouin. I could try, but I am not part of the community. I still don't understand their problem. As somebody, I did not go through the process to live in a place where I don't have, my lamp will be, I don't have electricity. Just one example. When I was a teacher, homeroom teacher, one of the students asked, why you did not study to the exam? She said, because diesel generators are expensive. And we just, at night, we just like power off. So she can't study for the exam at night. I did not go through that process. I really wish we're trying to build some initiative where we can bring Bedouin students to the
We had our
institute.
first Bedouin female student last semester. And I will say that Tarek, who is our new executive director, is very focused on shared society, which is all part of shared society, and that we will get more Bedouin students, more students from the Negev, and more Arab Israeli students in general at the Institute, but very specifically focused on this, and particularly focused on women students, which, as Farid mentioned, you find a lot of them in STEM in Israel and in these communities. So the thing is, we're always competing with their personal and family ambitions. Oh, I want to be a pharmacist, or I'm going to be this, or I'm going to be that. We have to also show them a career path. So that's why we also engage around alumni like Farid in showing them how this contributes to their education and to their success in the world. It's very multi-edged. If things in the Middle East were simple, it would be solved by now, but it is not. And so this, like everything else, we also have the problem that in some of these communities, it's hard to find a student with our program runs completely in English, to find people with English that is good enough. So we've thought about doing what we call an English Ulpan. For those of you who know, intensive Hebrew study in Israel is called Ulpan, to do an English Ulpan for these students so that they will be ready to come to the Institute when they're ready to come to the Institute. So there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. Farid, we want to thank you.
Yeah, I just want to finish at the end. Okay, before I know how to. Okay, guys, it's a very important thing. I was still part of the Institute family because I believe in the value. We need to democratize clean water. It's a fundamental right. It's a human right. It's like healthcare in America. You still debated if it's a human. No, it's a fundamental human right. And we can do it without your support and your collaboration. So as you see, this part of the CTWM team, they're coming from all the states. Every year we have new interns, you have new people, and the feed that you're seeing here is the one that has been fed by the system discharge effluent, the one that's behind Clive that was explaining about. So imagine we created with the system agriculture in the hyper-arid area of the Arava. So we definitely can do the same in semi-arid area in the Negev. And actually, one of the projects we hope to give our Bedouin women, traditional Bedouin women, this kind of capabilities and capacity building and training so that can use that system to their own benefits. So I want to thank you. And this is the Zarnouk Unrecognized Bedouin Villages. It also it was a trip from Oregon University organized by the Arava. I escorted them there. And shukran and TODA. And if there's Q&A, I would love to answer. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming and giving me the time. It's such a pleasure and honor.
Yeah,
Um,
go
we
ahead,
really,
Mary.
we really appreciate your time, Fareed, and all of you. If you have any special questions for us or for Fareed, you can send them to Lindsay. Lindsay, you want to put your email in the chat and you can be the filter for this. I know there are lots of questions about the technology. I think we'll do another session with Clive and Fareed perhaps, or whomever else on the technology per se. I'm sorry not to get to all of those. Can you visit them? I think, by the way, it's a great thing that this technology is now out at a kibbutz in Israel. It proves to our Bedouin and Arab partners that it's not just for them, it's also for everyone. And we do see this, by the way, so much of the world's population, especially in Africa, lives off grid. We forget in our world of, clean, cleaner, and cleanest water, and clean, cleaner, and cleanest wastewater, that so much of the world lives off grid. And we see this as a possible true global solution to off grid wastewater, which gets into the ground, gets into streams, and gets into agriculture, and really is a source of disease and pollution. And this also partners in ways of keeping people on arid or semi-arid land, which is getting hotter and drier, and making populations migrate, causing refugees, causing political turmoil. All these things relate to each other, whether it's this technology, agrivoltaics, all the things we're working on really are affected by climate change, can help be a solution. And we really appreciate your time, your energy, your support. Thank you, Fareed, for throwing in a commercial for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. And thank you all for your time, especially Fareed.